over plans for the upcoming rebellion, starting in cities across the UK in just 2 days' time. Regional rebellions across the UK in just 2 days' time. I'm here in Bristol, getting very excited to go and take part in the bridge occupation here. Across the UK, we're having different actions for this weekend, for the bank holiday, and then in Manchester, Cardiff, and London on September 1st, we're kicking off our main rebellion. Thousands of rebels across the UK will be engaging in peaceful civil disobedience to bring attention to the climate and ecological emergency and ask MPs, government departments, union, teachers, organisations, and other institutions to support the climate and ecological emergency bill. Failing to act on the emergency is dooming life on this planet and even us humans to extinction. This week, we've seen a mobilisation of rebels all across the UK as people prepare for the 2020 rebellion. In other news, Roger Hallam and 4 other members of the party formerly known as Beyond Politics, an XR splinter group, have been jailed for a month for climate action at political party headquarters and at NGOs across London. We'll be hearing about the rebellion and what's happening on September 1st from our speakers today, what's going to be happening and how you can get involved. All that and more coming up. Welcome to all our listeners and viewers around the world. This is XR UK Rebellion Check-In, XR extinctionrebellion.uk. I'm Robin Boardman, one of the XR UK coordinators and your host for this evening. I'm joined by Sarah Lunnon from the Political Circle. I'm joined by Annika, coordinator of Actions, Clare Farrell from Media Messaging, and our guest this evening is Katie from the Northern Rebellion. Welcome, everyone. Clare, do you want to kick us off with a bit of a story about what's happening right now, the context as we go into this rebellion?
Sure, thank you, Robin. Hi, everybody. So I'm coordinating the media team in the UK, and we've been looking a lot at the kind of story, the narrative of like how the rebellion comes around this time, why now, and what's the situation that we're really facing. And I think we're all quite well aware that there's been a kind of convergence of many different crises and kind of tipping points of environmental kinds and of social kinds that we're all living in the reality of. And that there is a kind of sense of general disillusionment that is growing all the time with government and inaction on inequality, exploitation, environmental degradation, and obviously climate change. A failure to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic properly. There's lots and lots of symptoms here of a system which is conspiring against itself and certainly against us and the living world, as we see ourselves part of that kind of living system. And so what we've come forward with in terms of the rebellion is bringing together some of those ideas, and we've put through some of that in the design work, in the posters that we've put out, and in a lot of the messaging packs that you might have seen going out to help people prepare for the rebellion. Was trying to reiterate, I think, again, that the social contract is well and truly broken. There's no care and there's no protection here for citizens in any meaningful sense that you would expect from the government as their primary duty. And so we see it as our duty and our sort of right to go out and protest with non-violent civil disobedience in the face of these crises. We also know that we're facing a very important moment, particularly on climate and biodiversity loss. I was just preparing for our press conference the other day, and I pulled out the image from the World Economic Forum from a couple of years ago, Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, saying if we don't turn this around by 2020, then it may be not possible to turn it around anymore. And I think it's a timely sort of reminder to look at where we've been in the last 2 years. Of course, we've moved the conversation. I think we've been a part of the movements that have shifted the conversation massively, and obviously public awareness and international kind of action climbing up the agenda, but still very little real action happening and very little real actual change happening. So it's very important that we hold in our hearts and in our minds kind of where we are right now and why, and you know, that people are ready for this change, but the people who hold the levers of power are certainly not allowing the change to happen in any way that I think the public are not just ready for, but ready to demand as well. So coming out of the pandemic conditions and the lockdown and the sort of, you know, the contraction that I think we've felt partly in XRUK, it's time for an upwards energy and for us all to get back out on the streets and get back together again.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, I think it's really painful at the moment to feel and hear about all this government inaction. And that's why I think so many rebels are just, you know, pumped and getting excited and ready for hitting to the streets this weekend and next week. Sarah, I wanted to ask, what is it that we're, you know, demanding from government action this time round?
Yeah, so in London, we are going to Parliament, and we are going to be disruptive around Parliament. And there is a certain, if you could see that as there being a kind of dissonance of, well, why are you going to Parliament and act, you know, asking government to act, whereas at the same time you're going to Parliament and you're being deliberately disruptive. Aren't you disrupting democracy? And I think we need to take a really hard look at our democracy and what it has achieved. So the IPCC first met in 1990, and it issued a report on what would happen if, you know, it predicted what would happen if we didn't make meaningful change. And basically nothing has happened. Absolutely nothing. In terms of, we have not reduced CO2 emissions. Our governments have not acted. And as Claire said, that social contract that our governments protect us and therefore we obey the laws of the government is well and truly broken. So we can say it as we are going to Westminster and the other centres of power, and we are saying, if you don't do the right thing, then actually we have a duty to stop you because you are being harmful. So that's why we're going to Parliament. We're going to make that case. Is you're going to go in London, you're going to go into that building, you have to go in and you have to now act to protect us. Well, what does that look like? So we've got XR's three demands, but also what we are supporting is we're supporting the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill. So I'm going to refer to it as the bill from now on because it's a bit of a mouthful otherwise. And so what the bill, the bill has been drawn up with a number of academics. It's been drawn up with other campaigners, people who used to work for Friends of the Earth, people who work for democratic organisations, number of academics, number of other campaigners, and they've drawn up what they feel is needed. XR has taken part in that process. It's not our bill, but we do support it. And so this bill is not based on what's credible, like XR's three demands. It's based on what is needed. It refers to a carbon budget. It takes in all of our consumption emissions. And it also notes that we need to not just stop damaging the natural world, but we have to start repairing the damage that has been done. So it places a duty on government to actually start repairing the web of life. So that's what we're calling on government to take forward. If they wanted to, our government could pass that bill in 2 days. That's how long it could take to make it law. They won't, and so we have to put the pressure on the government to act. And it's worth noticing that even the government's own advisors, the Committee on Climate Change, has noted of the 31 targets the government was meant to meet its own 2050 target, which is 30 years of making things worse. Of those 31 targets, it only fully met 2 of them. So even by its own woeful standards, our government is failing. So that's why we need to go out. It's why we need to be in Cardiff, another centre of power, and also Manchester, the powerhouse of what was the Industrial Revolution, now needs to be the powerhouse of changing things around, pantry repair, stopping the harm. So that's what we're doing.
Amazing. Thanks, Sarah. We've got the bill, we've got the plan, right? It feels really credible. It feels great, all the work that's gone into it. And like you say, you know, they could pass it in 2 days. We're going to have to put on some pressure. We want them to pass it in that kind of period of time, or even in a week or months. So Annika, thanks for joining us. I know you must be dead busy with rebellion planning at the moment, but can you tell us a bit more about how we're going to be applying the pressure? What is it that rebels are going to be doing in the rebellion this year?
Yeah, thank you, Robin. And yeah, hello to all our viewers today. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm just going to talk us very briefly through the broad plans in London and in Cardiff. And we've got Katie here to tell us a bit about the Northern Rebellion, which is really exciting to hear about as well. So first, though, the rebellion actually starts this Friday, the bank holiday weekend. So all over the UK, lots of local groups and regional groups are getting together to make sure that the whole UK knows we're in rebellion again. So there'll be banner drops, actions on themes around fossil fuels, aviation, banks and finance, lots of different ways to get involved. There'll be people's assemblies, so bringing community groups together to talk about these issues and meet other people. These actions will be outdoors. You don't have to go beyond your town or your city, especially during COVID. I know a lot of people are very nervous about traveling. So there's lots of ways to get involved just this weekend. So do look up your local group on Facebook or via the website. You can find out more about what's going on locally for you. And then in Cardiff from the 1st, so Tuesday, the first day, there's going to be a coming together, a big march and a redeclaration of rebellion in Cardiff, hopefully to really get the attention of the public in Wales and of Welsh MPs to tell them about the bill and that they need to support it as well. There's going to be other themes around rising seas and particularly how that's going to affect Wales a lot. And a real focus on the media as well, on telling the truth, as there's key BBC offices and places in Cardiff. So it's going to be taking some action around the media. And then so London, it's getting exciting and anxious. So the 1st of September on Tuesday, hopefully thousands of people, though we've no idea how many people are coming this time. We know that, during COVID, this is a totally different ball game, planning rebellion during a pandemic. And we're encouraging everybody to, really take precautions that you need to, wear masks, practice distancing when we're on the ground together. But we're coming together, we're going to be in Parliament Square, around Parliament, disrupting Parliament, as Sarah says, at the gates, at the doors, in the roads, really filling that area around Parliament and calling out the government failure. That's the main crux of the message. We're saying this government is not fit for purpose, and it's our moral duty to go and take action right to the heart of power. And then in the next few days, we'll actually take our action to some other locations and on other themes. So we'll demonstrate the harm that our government is doing. So we'll do actions based around the economy that's been failing us, the destruction of forests around, HS2 rebellion will be with us. Animal Rebellion are joining us. There's lots of different groups coming together, lots of different faith groups coming and standing in solidarity. We've got climate justice groups, African liberation groups. It's going to be a really fantastic joining of lots of different people from backgrounds and cultures to really bring this message together. And then on the ground as well, we'll have what we're calling the hub. So there will be somewhere you can go for a little bit of respite, to talk to other rebels, but also to learn. If it's your first time coming to a protest or rebellion, don't worry, you can come along to a training on the ground and get trained up in nonviolent direct action. You can do an induction if you really don't know anything about us and this is the first you're hearing. You can come and speak to someone, learn all about it. Learn your legal rights as well. It's really important. Everyone gets sort of really clear about what the risks are and the things we're doing, but there will be ways for everyone to get involved. And if you're not able to come to the streets or you're not able to travel to other cities, but you really want to take part from home, there's actually loads you can do. We've got a digital rebellion, which involves calling your MP or calling up the Treasury, calling up Downing Street. There's going to be various different campaigns running. It's perfectly legal, glorified lobbying, but we're really targeting it to the places that matter, honing the message. So there'll be some links coming up while you're watching to these things I'm mentioning. And really, the last thing I want to say is just, it is really hard what we're doing, planning, especially in a time of COVID and with a lot of uncertainty around how this is all going to go. And we're just asking that rebels really remember to take responsibility for yourselves, look after each other, buddy up, make sure you've, bought your hand sanitizer, bought an umbrella, all of those things, bought some clean socks, all of that. And we'll be putting out lots of information around all that kind of stuff. So keep a lookout in the newsletter. If you're not signed up yet, get on the website, sign up to the newsletters, and the Telegram broadcasts as well will be the key places for key information. So I'll make sure all those links are getting to you in the chats now.
Great, thanks, Annika. Sounds like we're piling on the pressure and not forgetting our wellies as we do it. Great. So just a reminder to everyone, we're live right now on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you want to drop any comments or questions down to the chat, we'll try and get back to you, and we can answer those questions later in this broadcast this evening. Next, I'm going to welcome in Katie. He's going to talk a little bit about the Northern Rebellion. Katie, go ahead.
Yes, Annika's already gone over some of the actions in the lead up to the first. But yeah, in Manchester, the main Northern Rebellion starts on the 1st of September. We'll be meeting at 10 a.m. in St. Peter's Square. The aim of the morning is to platform a wide variety of speakers. So, for example, individuals from faith groups, the Tenants Union, Stand Up to Racism, and Youth Strike, as well as holding workshops in topics such as disability and inclusion and action design. In the afternoon, we'll open up the possibility of local and affinity group actions, as well as a more structured march before coming back together in the evening. During the day, we'll have a stage, as well as providing sustenance and trying to obey as closely to COVID guidelines as physically possible. On the 2nd, we're having an action involving the Greater Manchester Pension Fund, which will start at 12:30. The aim is to raise awareness, do disobedience, and perform outreach about the need for divestment, not just within Greater Manchester, but within pension funds all over the UK. On the 3rd, we have an action centred around Barclays Bank, but there'll be more details about this coming soon. On the 4th, we're carrying out actions to do with HS2 and the horrific disruption of nature that is happening there. This will be taking place at Piccadilly Station, and we're hoping to be joined by some of the rebels that live in the camps there. All of this will be carried out as COVID safe as possible. And if you're unable to attend, there's the Digital Rebellion, which Annika has already talked about. So in summary, the 1st is St. Peter's Square, the 2nd is the Greater Manchester Pension Fund, the 3rd is Barclays, and the 4th is HS2. If you want to get more details about these, we have a Rebellion briefing on Sunday, the 30th of August at 4 p.m. over Zoom. And there's a Facebook event on the Extinction Rebellion North page. This will be a chance to get all your questions answered, and it'll be recorded and posted on Facebook after if you'd like to see it.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Katie. I've been hearing from rebels across the north about the pensioner action, grandparents getting together and making that show of strength and of courage to act in a time like right now. So it sounds very powerful and exciting. Right, as I mentioned, we're going to go into questions now in a second. But before we do that, I'd love to show a short video for everyone about nonviolent direct action, this key part of our movement and civil disobedience, and how we can take it forward. So I'll just show that now.
Non-violent direct action is disruptive. It has to be to attract attention, or it's just ignored. At the heart of government, our leaders don't seem to get it. Are they just abandoning their responsibilities? When there is no other choice, non-violent direct action works. The people on the streets know their survival is at stake. We're fighting for our lives and to have a future. Disruption is coming. Will we rise to meet the challenge? What will you choose?
Great. So I just wanted to show that I think it's a really powerful show of the ancestors, the history that we're walking on as rebels in this country, and the powerful effect that nonviolent direct action has. And as it mentioned at the end of that video, if you haven't been along to a nonviolent direct action training before, you can attend one either during the rebellion in London, or you can attend one this Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on Zoom, going to resettv.co.uk. So now we're going to move into some questions and see what people are thinking or asking about as we move into the rebellion. First one was mentioned earlier in the show. Dave on Facebook was asking about how is Extinction Rebellion, talking about the themes of Black Lives Matter, of facing the crisis of racism in this country and around the world. Annika, you mentioned including African liberations groups in the rebellion coming up. Can we hear a bit more from anyone here today about how we're tackling that crisis? Annika, do you want to start us off?
Pass that one along to Claire.
Okay, Sarah, do you want to? I'm lost track of this now.
Sorry, I was waiting for Annika to speak. So, well, there's been loads of conversations going on, obviously, as the sort of emergence of this kind of real sort of shifting moment for society around BLM. And so we've been connecting quite a lot with different justice groups, different racial justice campaigners. We've been having meetings with people and talking about how we can connect. I know that the Global Justice Rebellion have just sent out their draft for their action, which I could announce if I just read it off my phone, very ad hoc. 1 second. This is exciting because it's the invite just went out today, which is all about migrant justice. So looking at the climate crisis, obviously overwhelmingly affecting people in poorer countries, people in the global south, overwhelmingly affecting people of colour. So getting to grips with that and looking at how borders affect migrants and refugees, and looking at all of the impacts that we should be standing in solidarity with people who are in the UK in particular in this action. So those who are suffering in the UK migration system. The Global Justice Rebellion is partnered with many XR-like groups and many non-XR groups. And so this is going to be on Friday, the 4th of September at 10 a.m. on Parliament Square. I also know that there are actions planned collaboratively between various different groups, including our friends in our Internationalist Solidarity Network, who are connected with the Stop the Mangamizi campaign, which is against campaign for Pan-African reparations against genocide and also against ecocide. I know actually not in London, but there is a solidarity action. Someone told me on the phone yesterday about some, I know there's been a lot of activity between BLM and XR in Brighton. So they're doing some solidarity actions in the run up to the rebellion launch, but maybe Annika can say more.
I was just going to mention one more as well. There's a new group now called the Amazons Rebellion that are really honing in on talking about the Amazon and the destruction of the Amazon, really highlighting the desperation around that as a core issue. And they're going to be doing some brilliant Brazilian music on the Saturday night on the 5th in London, following on from our actions around Trafalgar Square. I think that's just, it's actually Indigenous Women's Day the same day as well, so it's a really great day to be celebrating that. And there has been some really good connections between that group and HS2 Rebellion as well, so looking at our forests being destroyed and the real lungs of the world being destroyed in the Amazon. So yeah, more of these actions where we can really see the kind of home and away effects of climate change and bring that together and show that global solidarity, the better.
Can I just add as well that the same day as Global Indigenous Women's Day, it's also trans rights protest as well at the same time in central London. So we'll be supporting the trans community as well.
Can I add as well that we've talking about how we manage the inclusion on the ground and how we in XR operate as an inclusive body, which we've also been thinking about. I think there's also something about remembering that acting on climate change and ecological breakdown, also has a racial element to it as well, because we know that those people who are being impacted right now by the breakdown of our climate and by the destruction of their environment are people in the global south. They're poor people, they're people of colour, and that there is, you know, the duty to act and push and force our governments to act on climate change also has an element of racial justice, that global element of racial justice. So yeah, so there's how we do it individually, and there's also remembering that there's that global position of what is happening right now to the people of the world.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I think we try and tackle that when we talk about our third demand, right? The need for climate and ecological justice. The way I think of that is often sort of like the Titanic. You know, if you think of the planet as the Titanic, we're all on that ship in some way. It's just that some people are much lower down in the decks for when it starts sinking, and people in the global south are feeling the effects of those water rises right now. So yeah, we'll be taking action in and around that. I've heard of a human chain around Parliament with African liberation groups, building on the work we've done in the reparations rebellion in Brixton on the 1st of August. So that's really exciting to bring that together and continue that work. There's some more practical questions coming in. Tina and others on Facebook are wanting to get a bit clearer about where exactly are they going on September 1st, what are the timings, and where should we be meeting to hear from other rebels?
That's
Annika,
one for me, isn't it?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so there are 4 main meeting points because we've got 4 plus London, different regions coming together in London, and that's rebels from the southwest, the Midlands, the southeast, and the east of England. So there are 4 different meeting points, and maybe someone can post this in the chat as well, so it's clear in writing. But it's the Tate Britain, Trafalgar Square, Buckingham Palace, and Westminster Cathedral. So they're all within a mile's march to Parliament Square. And those meeting points will be 11 a.m. And obviously, if you're coming from anywhere else or anywhere else in London, you can join from any direction. I know that Animal Rebellion are actually starting their march from Smithfield Market, and so they'll be arriving later in the afternoon, going for a bit of a longer trek through London. So you're welcome to join any of those marches or turn up at Parliament Square anytime, really. I think from midday and every day. We're going to be there up to 2 weeks, we think. So it's not just a one-day rebellion. This is going to keep going, and hopefully we'll keep building the pressure every day.
It's also worth pointing out, because I made this mistake, is that Westminster Cathedral is different from Westminster Abbey, because when Annika first said Westminster Cathedral, I was thinking, well, it's like it's right there. How are we going to march from there? So Westminster Cathedral is the Roman Catholic cathedral, and it is a bit of a way out, away from Parliament Square. Yeah, don't make my mistake.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Good clarification. So people are asking also, I think, on YouTube, Ronan, or might be on Facebook actually, Ronan. He's asking about, Annika, you mentioned earlier some of the precautions we're taking around coronavirus. I just mentioned doing a human chain, for example. There's going to be lots of people surrounding outside Parliament. How are we going to do some of these things in a safe way for rebels?
Yeah, I think for some of these actions where rebels feel the need, if they are trying to block an entrance, for example, they may feel the need to be stood closer together than 2 meters. If they do feel that need, then we're definitely encouraging wearing gloves, hand sanitizing regularly, etc. But everywhere where possible, if we can be at least 1 meter apart, preferably 2 meters apart, it'll be good. And that's great because it means we'll take up more space. So we'll be spread out. Hopefully we won't just be in Parliament Square, we'll be all the way down Whitehall and surrounding Downing Street as well. Ideally, that's my hope.
Thanks, looking forward to that. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this evening for this Rebellion check-in. This evening, we've gone over lots of exciting information about the Rebellion, and I hope everyone watching and listening today can have a chance to rebel. Whether that's on the streets at one of our actions starting on September 1st in London, Manchester, or Cardiff, or whether it's in 2 days' time in our different regional rebellions, like me here in Bristol, or from home through social media outreach, or digital disruption and digital rebellion. We really need your support. Embrace this opportunity of a lifetime to do what you deeply care about and help protect our future. If you can't make the rebellion or want to support us in another way, please consider donating. We're up against some of the titans of climate denial, big oil, big business, big money, all funding our destruction. If you can regularly give on our website, extinctionrebellion.uk/donate, you can help keep the rebellion going and also help us to build pressure beyond September and into the coming year, despite the impossible odds that we're facing up against big business and a crippling pandemic. Just £10 can help a young rebel get a coach ticket to one of these rebellions, or help produce the materials for a banner. So if you go to extinctionrebellion.uk/donate, you can find out all the information about how to donate in a really simple and easy way. Thank you for your support. And thank you everyone for tuning in this evening. We'll be back at the same time next week, 7 p.m. during the rebellion next week, which is quite exciting, on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. With all our love and courage, keep rebelling. Thanks.